7, and it's titled Strangled by the Right. America is corrupt. From top to bottom, side to side, America is gangrenous with filth. The country reeks of immoral putrefaction. At the birth of the Republic, there was promise and positive potential, until those within the system learned to defeat the checks and balances that had been put in place and corruption seeped in. The positive moral dreams were subverted by money. In 1977, the richest 1% of Americans had to spend, after taxes, more money than the bottom 49 million Americans. The richest 27 million Americans in 1999 had as much money as the bottom 100 million Americans. Over all this time, the rich have been getting richer, while the rest of us have gotten poorer. Income for the rich more than doubled. In the last 3 decades, the income of the top richest 5% has grown by 22.4%, while middle-class income has remained in limbo, and the incomes of the poor have fallen. The bottom 90% have lost ground. Their share of national income toppled from 66.66% to 50%. Their average was the same in 2000 as it was in 1970. The average income for the bottom 90% in 2000 was $25,035, which was $25 less than in 1970. Since 1970, the top 10%, 11.3 million households, watched their share of national income grow by 48%. The higher the income group, the larger were their income gains. But the top 1%, 1.3 million households, raked in more than 20% of all the income in the country. As for the richest 13,400 households, their share of national income in 2000 was more than 5 times what it was in 1970. 5% of national income. The average household income for this group was $24 million, 560 times the average in 1970. There are 134 million taxpayer households in America. If we are foolish enough to believe conservative propaganda, we believe that the rich earned all they have, that they worked hard for it. The facts are much different. The rich keep getting richer due to political decisions that have wounded America's economy near fatally. Statistics show that since 1970, the only significant income gains went to a very narrow slice at the top. It amounts to an enormous concentration of income among a very, very few. This leads to a contracted economy, making it a plantation or feudal type of economy. There's little money to support the middle and lower classes. The tax returns of the top 13,400 households showed that they had more income than the 96 million poorest Americans. This obscene contraction of an economy leads to depressions and recessions. Even hard-nosed Henry Ford knew that if he wanted to sell his Model Ts, he had to pay his workers a decent wage so they could buy them. This simple economic fact has been ignored by conservative sponsors of our present and past destructive economic policies. These people continue their piecemeal destruction of America's once unrivaled economy. 2 decades after the promises that lowering tax rates and reducing regulations would benefit everyone, the income gains flowed only to the top of the income ladder. Trickle-down economics was a cruel joke, a sham, and the whole process was a result of deliberate political design. Today, at the bottom rungs of the income ladder, there's less money for food, clothing, and housing. 4 out of 5 Americans were no better off in 2000 than they were in 1970. In 1972, one who was bringing home a monthly wage of $320 could buy a new Vega with power steering, automatic transmission, AM/FM radio. Not today. Nearly all of this economic perversion can be laid at the feet of corporate America, which bought access to politicians with their contributions, bribes. This led to an unhealthy state of politicians listening mostly to the plans, ideas, and concerns of only the super rich. This cancer of political corruption has sold America down the drain and has crippled her moral compass. These corrupt politicians, in a money-mad frenzy, passed law after law favoring the rich and corporations, which threw the American economy into a tilted tizzy. Companies no longer have to put away enough money in their pension plans, and this has resulted in a lack of financial soundness. Laws were then passed that required businesses to set aside extra money for older workers, which creates an incentive to lay them off. A vital requirement of civilization, economic security, has been deliberately done away with. Law enforcement budgets go begging to pay for white-collar crime. This has allowed the sleazebags who ran Enron, WorldCom, and Tyco to flourish. As far as taxes are concerned, the IRS has targeted the average taxpayer for audits, while the Republican conservative-sponsored tax cuts of the last 20 years has cost the government tens of billions of dollars in lost and stolen income. Hundreds of billions of dollars that could fund health care for all was siphoned off from the Treasury to offshore illegal tax havens. Due to budget cuts and a lack of will to seek out the truth, the media slept through all of this conspiratorial and deliberate wholesale destruction of the American way of life. This has led to Americans working harder, working more hours, and being more productive just to stay even. These actions destroyed the family. Men and women were no longer married to each other. They were married to a thing, the corporation. They were owned body and soul by the heartless corporation. Workers became slaves of the only game in town, the corporation. Corporations now deal in economic blackmail. They pay their workers what they want, not what they deserve. The worker's freedom to work for whom he chooses has been eroded. It has become an obscene, perverted, and sick power game. The George W. Bush administration is on a counterfeit religious crusade to roll back the 20th century. This right-wing assault wants to undo every decent and good thing about the United States. Their vile, counterfeit religious attack is on America's core value of decency, fairness, and accountability, the fundamentals of real democracy. As shown by the weapons of mass destruction fiasco in Iraq, it's a direct attack on honesty and truth. This is an ideologically extreme regime that occupies our White House. The regime lies about the economy. It doesn't admit that more than 9 million people are unemployed, that wages and salaries are stagnant or down, that healthcare costs are out of sight, double-digit rates, and that 12 million children live in poverty. This is obscene. They also won't admit that retirement savings have been ravaged by the stock market meltdown. About 33 million people in America are now considered food insecure. And the little corporal, the usurper in the White House, just arrogantly awards illegal contracts to Halliburton and its criminal subsidiaries. The little moron in the White House also sneakily killed legislation that would punish corporations and rich individuals who set up offshore havens to shelter themselves from $75 billion yearly in taxes. Harken Energy, when George W. Bush was on its board, set up an offshore tax dodge. And Halliburton, under Dick Cheney's leadership, set up 44 offshore tax dodges. The real turkey in George W. Bush's photo op of Thanksgiving in Iraq was the one holding the platter, not the dead bird on it. George W. Bush is just another little upper-class white boy out trying to prove he's tough. Of course, rabid conservatives will rant that all of this is part of free trade, which is God's gift to modern economies. Yet the United States has lowered its trade barriers, and other countries haven't. American corporations move plants and jobs to countries that block our products and services from entering. Every time the United States loses an industry because its jobs can be done more cheaply overseas, those who worked in that industry here need to be retrained, go on unemployment, for welfare. There also are other human social costs, such as suicide, mental illness, family breakdowns. Conservative economists arrogantly ignore all these important public costs which wind up being paid by taxpayers. Free trade is purely and simply a race to the bottom. It has resulted in pressure to reduce benefits, job security, and wages for new employees and older ones. America's standard of living must be lowered drastically in order to live in the never land world of rapacious corporate America. Why must Americans lower their standard of living, waiting for the rest of the world to catch up and compete on an equal level? Why not fair trade, where the United States would compete freely with those countries in which companies pay decent wages, benefits, and also protect the environment? Free trade is nothing more than mismanaged conservative economic nonsense that is gutting America's economy and is turning the country into a banana republic. After 3 years of surpluses, the moron's illegitimate administration has foisted on the United States the largest deficits in the country's history. Not satisfied, selected President Bush wishes to make his tax cuts for the rich permanent. This would increase the deficit by $1.5 trillion. It has finally become common knowledge that the American tax system is rigged to benefit the rich. The income gap between the rich and the poor has become a Grand Canyon in the last 24 years. If the moron Bush's tax cuts are made permanent, the wealthy would get 40% of it, while the lowest 20% would get only 0.7%. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan, in a senile dementia haze, said that protectionist cures to deal with America's job losses would make things worse. He blamed the lack of adequate educational training rather than outsourcing that posed a threat to future American prosperity. Is that why most people around the world seek to be educated in the United States? Greenspan was obviously delusional when he claimed protectionism will do little to create jobs, and if foreigners retaliate, we will surely lose jobs. We're already there. That's why our trade deficit is so high. How long will the American people put up with this elitist attack on their rights, liberties, livelihood, and pursuit of happiness? Isn't it time to take back what is rightfully ours and to oust the elitists who have commandeered it? Isn't it time to bring the corruption to an end? Isn't it time to vote for our peers? Isn't it time to cease our pathological deference to the rich, who lack a conscience and who are a national security risk when they're in business? Because the only patriotism they know is the public relations type, and the only allegiance they have is to their money. Then do something about it.
Hi, this is William Morrow. Are you one of those people who join a health club, and after they have your big, overpriced annual membership, you notice that you're on your own with little or no results even after all the promises? Then the website Personal Trainer is for you.
Thank you
very much, William H. Morrow III.
So you lost another argument with a conservative, right-wing Republican. He talked over you. He screamed and yelled. He brought out the Bible. He thumped it. He quoted scripture to you. You were lost because you came at him with facts. Nothing but facts. And you expected that would make you look good. That would make you win the argument, but it didn't. You know why you lost the argument? You know why you're going to lose your next argument? Because you don't read Censored. Censored, the 30-year-old newsletter that shows you how to defeat a conservative. Read Censored, and you'll have all the ammunition you need. Every time you get into an argument with a right-wing conservative, so-called Christian. Censored. That's all you need. Read it and defeat a conservative.
Greetings, listeners. Let me speak to you for a moment about the foundation of our entire organization, Newsletters Censored. It was founded by our mentor, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, in 1977. It discusses the 5 taboos of American life: politics, religion, health, human sexuality, and child rearing. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media and the press. It reveals the kind of truth that most people are afraid to hear. Can you handle it? We are living in the end times, so in order to defeat a conservative and save America, you need Newsletters Censored. Go to www.newslettercensored.com, click on the printable order form page, and with your gift to support this work, get your free annual subscription. This is James P. Madonna of Megalife 21, the hardest hitting internet talk radio station on the planet.